I used to think a coma was like sleeping. Peaceful. Silent. Somewhere far away from everything that hurt. But that's not what it is. Not at all. When you're in a coma, you're not gone. You're trapped. You hear the world. You feel the world. You remember everything, even when no one thinks you can. And sometimes, the things you hear are the very things you were never meant to know. My name is Ray, and I spent 13 days locked inside my own body. 13 days unable to move, unable to speak, unable to even open my eyes. But I heard every word spoken beside my hospital bed. Every confession whispered over my unconscious body. Every secret that people thought was safe because I couldn't respond. The first thing I heard wasn't a doctor's voice. It wasn't machines. It wasn't my sister crying. It was my mother. And not the mother the world sees. Not the woman with perfect posture and perfect smiles and perfect Bible verses. It was her real voice. Sharp. Panicked. Terrified. What if she wakes up and tells them? My heart tried to leap inside my chest, but my body didn't move. My fingers didn't twitch. My eyes didn't open. All I could do was listen as her fear seeped into the air like poison. Another voice answered her. A man. Low, steady, and unfamiliar. If she remembers anything, we're both finished. That sentence sliced through the darkness around me like a blade. Finished? Finished because of what? Finished if I remembered what? I tried again to open my eyes. To move. To breathe differently. To do anything that would let them know I was hearing everything they said. Nothing. My body was dead weight. My mind was wide awake. I wasn't dreaming this. I wasn't imagining it. Someone was hiding something from me, something big, something dangerous, and they believed my coma made it safe for them to talk. I listened harder, desperate for clues. Calm down, the man whispered. There's no sign she remembers. The doctors said she won't wake up soon. My mother didn't sound reassured. But if she does, if she says anything, then we'll deal with it, he said. I wanted to scream. To claw my way out of the darkness. To demand answers. But all I could do was lie there helplessly as the two of them continued whispering about me like I was gone. Eventually, their voices drifted away, and for a while, all I heard was silence. Not peaceful silence, heavy silence. Suffocating silence. The kind that coils around your chest and makes you wish you could run. And then, hours later, though time meant nothing in that world, I heard heels clicking hurriedly across the hospital floor. I recognized the rhythm instantly. My sister, Carmen. Her scent hit me a moment before her voice did. Vanilla lotion. She never went anywhere without it. Ray, baby, please wake up, she whispered shakily. She grabbed my hand and squeezed it, and even though I couldn't squeeze back, I felt the warmth of her fingers. It was the first human touch I'd felt since the accident. What did she do to you? She whispered. My mind jolted. She, meaning our mother? Carmen sniffed, trying not to sob, and leaned closer. I warned you. I told you not to go back to that house. I told you to stop letting her pull you into her mess. But you always try to fix people, even the ones who break you. I wanted to respond. To tell her she wasn't wrong. To say I heard every word. To beg her not to leave me alone with Mom again. But my lips didn't move. A door opened behind her. Footsteps. My sister stiffened. What are you doing here? My mother asked in a calm, delicate tone. The voice she used when she wanted to hide her temper. Carmen didn't match her softness. I'm here because my sister almost died. She's stable, Mom replied. Doesn't matter. She wouldn't be in a hospital bed if it weren't for you. You have no idea what you're talking about. I know enough, Carmen snapped. Their voices escalated, sharp edges slicing through my stillness. I listened as they circled around each other, their anger rising like static in the air. Finally, Mom said something that made Carmen fall silent. She knows too much. My skin tightened. My breath hitched inside me, even though no sound escaped. Carmen's voice dropped to a whisper. What did you do? But Mom didn't answer. Not directly. Instead, she spoke the sentence that would replay in my mind for the rest of my life. If she wakes up, everything falls apart. I felt the truth in her words like a cold hand against my spine. There was something I wasn't supposed to know. Something I had seen or heard before the accident. Something she needed me to forget. Carmen didn't push her. She just stood there breathing hard, shaking with anger and fear. Mom changed her tone completely. Smooth, composed, like someone flipping a switch. We need to stay united for Ray's sake, she said. You're doing this for yourself, Carmen shot back. Not her. We all make choices, Mom replied. And we live with them. Then I felt the air shift as she turned and walked away. Carmen leaned close again, her hand trembling around mine. I don't know what happened, she whispered, but if you can hear me, wake up. Please. I need you to wake up. I wanted nothing more than to open my eyes. Not just for her. But for myself. For the truth. But my body stayed frozen. Days blurred together. Sometimes I heard doctors. Sometimes nurses. Sometimes just the hum of machines keeping me tethered to the world. But every day, someone came into my room whispering something they shouldn't have. A cousin confessing money problems. My aunt mentioning arguments no one ever told me about. My uncle saying, she knew too much. That's the problem. Someone else whispering, it wasn't supposed to happen like this. A male voice I didn't recognize saying, we can't let this come out. It got to the point where I didn't know if I was dreaming or hearing the truth. But then, on what I later learned was the 8th day, someone entered my room whose voice I knew better than anyone's. My mother. She closed the door softly, the click echoing through my mind like a warning. She stood beside my bed for a long time without speaking. I could feel her presence, rigid, controlled, calculating. When she finally spoke, her voice was so soft I thought I imagined it. You weren't supposed to find out, she whispered. I never meant for you to know. She paused. But if you wake up, if you tell anyone. Her words faded into a threat I felt more than heard. And then she leaned closer, her breath brushing my ear. You should have stayed out of my business. She walked away without looking back. My pulse surged wildly, pounding against the machines. I wanted to move, wanted to scream, wanted to tear through the darkness trapping me. But I still couldn't open my eyes. I was locked inside myself, drowning in secrets I didn't fully understand. Yet every word I overheard pushed one truth deeper into my chest. My coma wasn't an accident. And the people closest to me didn't want me waking up. Not because they feared losing me. But because they feared what I remembered. If only I could remember it myself. The 9th day of my coma was the first time I felt something other than fear. It was anger, slow, quiet, heavy. The kind that burns under the skin like a low fire waiting to rise. Because by then, I had heard enough to know my family wasn't just hiding something from me. They were hiding themselves from me. People show you who they really are when they think you'll never wake up. And the truth wasn't pretty. That morning, the light behind my eyelids felt cold, like clouds were passing over the sun. I heard footsteps enter the room, soft, careful, like someone trying not to be noticed. My Aunt Denise. She always wore cheap perfume, the kind that smelled sweet but sharp at the same time. When I was little, I joked she smelled like a candy factory on fire. She sat down heavily in the chair beside me, sighing like the world was sitting on her shoulders. I told her this would happen, she whispered. Her voice startled me. Not because she was talking, but because for the first time, she didn't sound like she was pretending to be someone she wasn't. No good comes from covering up the past, she murmured. No good at all. My heart jumped. Covering up the past. Past what? She lowered her voice even more, like she was afraid someone might be standing outside. Your mama always thinks things stay buried. But secrets don't stay dead, Ray. They don't. I focused every ounce of my being on listening. I warned her. The truth always comes back. Look at you. Look at where this put you. The shame in her voice hit me like a slap. I heard the sound of her hands rubbing together, a nervous habit she had when she lied or when she was about to say something she shouldn't. You weren't supposed to know, she whispered. None of y'all were. Not you, not Carmen. And now, look at this mess. Every word she said dug deeper into me. Then her tone shifted, becoming desperate. If you wake up, please don't come after me. I didn't push you. I didn't touch you. I tried to stop it, Lord knows I tried. My heart thundered loudly enough that I wondered if she heard it. Stop what? Try to stop what? She sniffed, wiping tears. You didn't deserve any of this. You never did. You're the good one. And then something happened that I never expected. She stood up, leaned over me, and kissed my forehead gently. I'm sorry, Ray, she whispered. Forgive me when you wake up. And she left the room quickly, like she couldn't stand to be near me any longer. I lay there in the darkness of my coma, trembling internally. She had confirmed something without saying it plainly. Someone did something to me. Someone she knew. Someone she was protecting. And it wasn't her. For the first time, I didn't feel helpless. I felt dangerous, because they were scared of me waking up. Scared of what I knew. Scared of what I remembered. Even if I didn't remember anything yet, they thought I did. That alone meant I had leverage. Later that day, hours or minutes, I couldn't tell anymore, the door opened again, and I instantly knew who it was. My mother. Her heels tapped the floor with the kind of confidence only a woman who lies for a living can maintain. She shut the door quietly behind her, and the room settled into that tight, uncomfortable silence that always followed her. She drew the chair closer. I felt her presence before anything else. I hope you didn't hear what Denise said, she murmured. Her voice was so calm it chilled me. She's always had a flair for drama. You know how she is. Everything sounds like a confession even when it's nothing. 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 Everything about this situation screamed that it was not nothing. Mom exhaled slowly. You've always been the sensitive one, she said softly. You feel too much. Think too much. You take on other people's burdens. She paused. That's why you got involved. My skin prickled. Got involved. In what? She reached over and adjusted my blanket with a tenderness that would have seemed loving to anyone who didn't grow up under her roof. To me, it felt like a threat disguised as care. You should have left things alone, she whispered. You always push, Ray. Always dig. Always want answers. My heart pounded harder. And now look at you, she said. Broken. Silent. Out of the way. Out. Of. The way. She inhaled deeply, then leaned close enough that her breath grazed my cheek. You were never supposed to find out. Part of me wanted to believe she was talking about something small, something simple that spiraled out of control. But the tone in her voice, the coldness, the lack of remorse. Whatever she was hiding was big. Bigger than me. Bigger than our family. Someone knocked on the door suddenly, making even her jump. The door opened without waiting for a response. Dr. Patel walked in. His voice was always clear and direct, the kind you could trust even before you saw his face. "How is she today?" he asked. "She's the same," Mom replied instantly, composing herself in a heartbeat. No movement, no change. He moved around my bed, checking monitors, adjusting wires. Mom stayed silent, pretending to watch with concern. Then Dr. Patel said something that almost made my heart stop. "Her brain scans show activity that wasn't there before." Mom stiffened. He continued, oblivious to her panic. "She's responding more to external stimuli. That means she may be hearing us, and processing things." Silence. Then my mother's voice, tight, controlled. "Are you saying she might wake up?" "Possibly," he said. "Maybe sooner than we expected." She exhaled slowly, but not with relief. With fear. Real fear. And that told me everything I needed to know. She didn't want me to wake up. She didn't want me to remember. She didn't want the truth getting out. Dr. Patel finished his check and told her he'd be back with updated results. He walked out, leaving her alone with me. The moment the door shut, she whispered, "You can't wake up yet." Her voice trembled. "You weren't supposed to survive." My heart slammed against my ribs so hard the machine next to me beeped. She gasped and stepped back like I had slapped her. The machine beeped again. She panicked, pressing the call button. Footsteps rushed toward the door. She leaned close one last time, her voice a knife pressed against my ear. "You should have stayed in the dark." The door opened, nurses rushed in, and she stepped away, mask back on, pretending to be the worried mother. I lay in that bed, body immobile, but mind fully awake, trembling with the force of the truth. My coma wasn't an accident. It wasn't fate. It wasn't bad luck. Someone put me here. And my own mother knew exactly who. And exactly why. And now she knew something else. I was coming back. Whether my body woke up or not. My mind already had. The night after my mother whispered that I wasn't supposed to survive, something changed inside me. Something I can't fully explain, like a spark, a shift, a push from somewhere deep inside my mind that said, "Wake up. Wake up before she finds a way to silence you forever." My body stayed still, frozen in the bed, but my mind was clawing toward the surface. I could feel myself rising and sinking, drifting and fighting, every second a battle between darkness and something brighter trying to pull me out. I heard the nurses whispering outside my room that night. "She's stabilizing more than we expected. Her heart rate is reactive. She squeezed someone's hand earlier, did you see that?" "No, her chart doesn't say anything about that." That last comment made warmth bloom inside me. Maybe I did move. Even just a tiny bit. Maybe my body was finally listening to me. But I didn't have time to celebrate. Because the next voice I heard was one I had avoided my whole adult life. My mother's brother, Uncle Robert. When he walked in, the room temperature dropped. Even in a coma, I could feel the chill. He always smelled like cigarette smoke and cheap whiskey, just strong enough to make you step back a little when he talked. Growing up, he scared me without ever raising a hand. He had that cold, calculating silence that made you feel like he saw through your skin and into your bones. He shut the door quietly and exhaled heavily. "Damn shame," he muttered. His footsteps came closer as he stood at the side of my bed. I felt the weight of his stare. "You should have stayed out of it," he whispered. My stomach twisted into a tight knot. How many times had I heard that sentence now? He pulled a chair across the floor, dragging it slowly, deliberately, almost like he wanted me to hear every inch of that sound. You always were the curious one, he said. Always asking questions. Always sniffing around where you shouldn't. His voice grew rougher. That's how people get hurt. My heart thrashed violently inside me. The machine next to me beeped sharply, but he didn't react. If anything, he leaned in closer. You know, he said, his voice dropping to a low growl, I warned your mama years ago this would happen. I told her you weren't built for this kind of thing. You're too soft. Too emotional. You get attached. He chuckled, dark, quiet, like he was amused by the whole thing. Guess I was right. A hot pulse of anger shot through me, deep and boiling. What thing was he talking about? What had I gotten involved in? Why were they all acting like I had walked into danger knowingly? He sighed, rubbing his palms against his jeans. Now look at you, he muttered. Hooked up to machines. Barely hanging on. Because you decided to play detective. Detective. The word cut through me. Detective for what? Detective about who? Uncle Robert leaned back in the chair. If you wake up, he said slowly, you need to forget everything. Forget what you saw. Forget what you heard. My pulse spiked again, and the machine beeped. He stared at it with narrowed eyes. You hearin' me? He moved even closer, so close I felt his breath on my cheek. My entire body screamed to wake up. To move. To get away from him. You hear me, girl, he whispered again. The beeping intensified, alarms shrilling as my heart hammered wildly. He froze. Then he whispered one last thing, something he didn't intend anyone else to hear. You weren't supposed to walk away from that car. Cold. Final. Like a sentence delivered. My breath stuttered inside me. Not just because of what he said. But because he said, walk away. He knew about the accident. He knew more than anyone else had admitted. And the way he said it. Almost like it was planned. He stood up fast when the nurses rushed in, pretending to be concerned, pretending he had been praying over me. Her heart rate spiked, one nurse said nervously. We need to run vitals again, another murmured. Uncle Robert stepped back, hands raised like he had nothing to hide. Hope she pulls through, he said dryly. Family needs her. And he walked out without glancing back. As soon as the door closed, I felt a tear escape the corner of my eye, just one, slow and heavy. A nurse gasped softly. Oh my God, she's responding. Footsteps rushed. Machines beeped faster. Someone called the doctor. Someone whispered my name. I couldn't move my lips, but inside, my voice roared. I heard you. All of you. And I'm not staying silent. That night, as my body drifted in and out of awareness, a memory flickered behind my closed eyelids. Not a full memory, more like a shadow, a blurred image, something half-formed and fading fast. A car. Headlights. Rain hitting pavement. A voice yelling my name. My own hands gripping something tightly. And someone behind me shouting. Ray, don't open that. My heartbeat surged. The machine beeped. I chased the memory, reaching for it with everything in me, but it slipped away like smoke. I wasn't imagining it. Something happened before the accident. Something dangerous. The next morning, Carmen came back. This time, she sounded frantic, whispering fast and shaking. They told me your vitals responded, she said. Ray, if you can hear me, squeeze my hand. I tried. God knows I tried. Nothing. A broken sob escaped her. I swear to you. I'm going to find out what happened, she whispered. You're not alone, okay? I'm going to figure this out. If she only knew how close she was to the truth. She was interrupted by a knock on the door. She tensed. And so did I. The door cracked open. My mother. Carmen wiped her face and stood confronting her. What did you say to her? Mom asked coldly. What did you say to her? Carmen shot back. Mom straightened her posture, smoothing her blouse like she was preparing for a performance. I'm here to check on my daughter, she said calmly. Carmen laughed, a short, bitter sound. Funny, she said. The last time you checked on someone, they ended up in a hospital too. Silence crackled between them. Then Carmen said something that made my entire world tilt. I talked to Dad's old friend. And I know what you did. I know exactly what you've been hiding. Mom's breath hitched, just slightly. And just like that, something inside me lit up. Whatever this secret was. Whatever they thought I knew. Whatever put me in this coma. It had roots deeper and older than I realized. And Carmen had found something. My mother stepped closer to her, voice cold enough to freeze bone. You need to stop digging. You need to stop lying, Carmen spat. Then Mom whispered. You're going to end up just like her. The room went silent. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I couldn't warn Carmen. But inside, I was screaming one thing. Wake up. Wake up before she hurts someone else. Wake up before she stops you from learning the truth. And as the tension thickened in the room, as their voices sharpened, as the machines beeped in the background, something in me finally shifted. My fingers twitched. So small. So faint. But real. And the moment Carmen saw it, she gasped so loudly it echoed through me. Ray. Ray, do it again, please. I tried. God, I tried. My fingers moved, barely a millimeter, but it was enough. Carmen cried out, she's waking up. She's trying. My mother's breath hitched, too sharply to hide. And beneath everything happening in that room, one truth pulsed through me with absolute clarity. They didn't want me to wake up. But I was waking up anyway. And when I did, their secrets were coming with me. The moment my fingers twitched, everything in the room shifted. Carmen froze with her hand over her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. Her voice trembled as she whispered my name over and over like a prayer she wasn't sure would be answered. My mother, on the other hand, stood perfectly still. Not shocked. Not relieved. Not emotional. Still. Like a predator trying not to startle its prey. Did you see that? Carmen cried. She moved. Ray, do it again. Please. I tried, God, I tried. My entire mind pushed against the darkness, straining to send a signal down into my hands, my fingers, my body. Move. 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 Nothing happened. The exhaustion of that tiny attempt hit me like a wave, but I wasn't sinking again. No. Not this time. Something inside me was alive again, clawing to get out from the cage my own body had become. Mom stepped closer to the bed. Her voice was too soft, too calm. Carmen, you're imagining things. I'm not. Carmen snapped through tears. She moved. I saw it. Grief plays tricks on people, Mom murmured. But Carmen wasn't listening. She held my hand tighter, leaning so close her forehead nearly touched mine. Ray, can you hear me? She whispered. Squeeze my hand. Please. I'm right here. Her warmth grounded me. Her voice pulled me toward the surface like a rope thrown to someone drowning. I focused, harder than I've ever focused on anything. But before I could try again, Mom spoke in that low, venom-coated tone she used when she didn't want anyone else to hear her true feelings. She isn't waking up. Carmen's head snapped toward her. Why are you so against the idea of her getting better? Mom didn't answer. Not directly. Instead, she walked to the foot of the bed and adjusted my blanket. A useless gesture. An excuse to have her back to Carmen. But not to me. She whispered so quietly Carmen couldn't hear. You weren't supposed to come back. The words slithered straight into my chest. Carmen kept arguing, her voice rising. Why can't you just admit something happened? Why can't you admit you had something to do with it? Mom, look at her. She moved. But Mom ignored her, smoothing the blanket with slow, deliberate strokes. Then she said the last thing I expected. She remembers something. My pulse shot up. The monitor beeped faster. Carmen turned slowly. What did you just say? Mom finally looked up, her face rearranged into that perfect, emotionless mask she's worn her whole life. Nothing, she said. Don't lie to me. Carmen's voice cracked under pressure. You said she remembers something. She heard me wrong, Mom said, tightening her grip on the blanket. But she didn't look at Carmen. She looked straight at me. The beeping accelerated. Carmen gasped. Oh my God, her heart rate. Mom moved quickly now, fixing her mask. She stepped back as nurses rushed in. What's happening? One asked. She just started responding to something, Carmen said. Mom plastered on a trembling smile. Oh, thank God, she's improving. I knew she would. Liar. My body didn't move, but something inside me screamed loud enough to shake the walls. The nurses checked me, adjusted machines, jotted notes. The energy in the room was hopeful, except for one person. My mother. She watched every beep, every flicker, every slight twitch like she was calculating how close I was to coming back to life. And how much time she had left before everything she'd been hiding came crashing down. When the room finally cleared, Carmen refused to leave. She sat at my bedside and held my hand, whispering promises. I'm going to protect you, she said. Whatever happened, we're going to get through it. She didn't know how much danger she was in just by standing beside me. Mom stepped into the hallway and spoke in a hushed tone to someone, her voice slipping through the door in faint, sharp pieces. She's progressing faster. Doctor said she might wake soon. No, we can't let. You need to come now. Who was she talking to? That same low male voice I'd heard before? Someone new. Someone involved in what happened to me. The thought burned through my chest like wildfire. Night settled again. The hospital quieted. Footsteps faded into echoes. Lights dimmed behind my eyelids. But I didn't drift like before. I hovered on the edge of waking, like my mind was clawing back every piece of strength it could find. Then I heard the door open. Soft steps. Not Carmen. Not Mom. Not a doctor. Someone else. A man. The same man from the first day, the one who whispered with my mother, the one who said, if she remembers anything, we're finished. His voice seeped into the darkness again, just as quiet, just as calm. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Every nerve in my system lit up with fear. He pulled the chair closer. You should have let it go, he whispered. You shouldn't have gone looking. He exhaled, a tired, irritated sound. You didn't have to get involved. And now your mother is losing her damn mind because of you. My heartbeat stuttered violently. The machine responded with frantic beeps. He clicked his tongue. You hear me, don't you? I knew you did. He leaned so close I could feel the warmth of his breath. You're not waking up. Not if I have anything to say about it. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. He didn't move. He didn't leave. He whispered, almost kindly. Close your eyes again. Go back to sleep. Go back to the darkness. But I wasn't sinking. I was rising. Rising toward the surface. Rising toward the truth. Rising toward the memory that flashed earlier but slipped away before I could hold on to it. And then, a new flicker of memory broke through the fog. Rain. Slick pavement. My mother yelling in the distance. A man grabbing my arm. Me shouting, let go of me. A car door swinging open. Hands shoving. My head hitting something hard. Glass. A scream. And then. Nothing. The man beside my bed froze. The machine beeped faster. Louder. Urgent. Damn it, he whispered. You're remembering. He stood up abruptly. You need to stop, he hissed. You need to stop now. Footsteps echoed outside. The door handle moved. The man slipped out silently just before the door opened fully. Carmen rushed in, followed by a nurse. Her vitals are spiking again, the nurse said, checking the monitor. Carmen grabbed my hand, shaking, crying. Ray, baby, something's happening. I know you can hear me. Don't stop fighting. Don't. And then, as if summoned by something dark and inevitable, my mother appeared behind her. Calm. Poised. Deadly. She looked at the monitor. Then at me. Then at Carmen. Her voice was steady when she spoke. She's waking up. Not relieved. Not hopeful. Threatened. I felt the air around me tighten like it was preparing for a storm. Carmen leaned close, whispering trembling words. Come back to me, Ray. Please, come back. My mother stood in the corner, her eyes fixed on me. And deep inside the darkness, I whispered back with everything I had left. I'm coming. And when I do, I'll finally remember what you did. By the morning of the 11th day, my mind felt like it was balanced on the edge of a knife. Half in the darkness. Half clawing back into the light. Drifting between the world I was trapped in and the world that waited for me above the surface. Every whisper, every confession, every threat, they were all beginning to bind together, like puzzle pieces slipping into place. And the closer those pieces aligned, the more frantic everyone around me became. Except Carmen. She stayed by my side almost constantly now. She talked to me, told me stories, brushed my hair with shaking hands. Sometimes she cried softly, thinking I couldn't hear her. Sometimes she held my hand with both of hers, whispering. You're coming back to me. I know you are. And she was right. I could feel myself rising. My fingers twitched again that afternoon, stronger this time. I felt it. Not just in my mind. In my body. A nurse saw it and let out a small gasp, calling the doctor immediately. For the next 30 minutes, people rushed around me, checking monitors, shining lights, speaking in rapid, hopeful tones. But through all of their voices, I heard footsteps stop in the doorway. My mother. She stood there watching the commotion, her hands clasped neatly, her face unreadable. Then, upon realizing what was happening, her throat bobbed in a slight swallow, a tiny crack in her perfect composure. She's regaining consciousness, the doctor announced. Carmen sobbed with relief, laughing through tears. Oh my God, Ray. Ray, that's my girl. But my mother only asked one question, too quickly. How much consciousness? The doctor paused. Her brain activity is significantly increased. She may begin waking up within hours. Hours. It was the first time anyone had used time as something close. Not days. Not weeks. Not maybe. Hours. Carmen leaned closer to me. You hear that? You're almost here. Keep going. My mother walked inside the room and stood at the end of the bed. Not beside me. Not touching me. Just watching. Waiting. Like she was preparing for a verdict she didn't want to face. That night, the hallway outside my room was louder than usual, nurses hurrying from one emergency to another, a code being called on another floor, wheels squeaking as equipment rolled past. The chaos of the hospital felt like it was swirling around me, but my room was quiet. Too quiet. Because it wasn't empty. Someone was in the corner. Breathing lightly. Trying to stay hidden. I would have thought it was a dream or my mind playing tricks again, except I recognized that breathing. The man. The same man who'd been whispering to my mother. The same man who said I wasn't supposed to wake up. The same man who tried to convince me to go back to the darkness. He waited until the hallway noise faded, then stepped closer, so quietly not even the machines reacted. You're remembering more than you should, he whispered. My heart jolted. The machine beeped faster. He shook his head. There you go again. Always reacting. He sat in the chair beside me and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You know, before all this, I thought you were harmless. I used to tell your mother you weren't built for secrets. A small, humorless laugh escaped him. Guess I was wrong. He rubbed his jaw. I warned you not to go to that house. I warned you not to open that door. But you never listen. A hot, burning pulse tore through my chest. The memory, the door, the yelling. I could feel it trying to break through. You shouldn't have gone back there, he murmured. You weren't supposed to see her arguing with him. You weren't supposed to hear anything. Her. Him. Who? He leaned closer, whispering like he was telling me a bedtime story. When you confronted your mother, when you told her you knew something, she panicked. And when she panics, she makes messy decisions. My heart thundered. Machines beeped wildly. He looked at the monitor and smirked. Oh, so you do remember that part. The darkness inside my mind cracked open. The memory rushed in, clearer than ever. I was standing in my mother's kitchen. Rain pounded outside. A man was shouting at her. Her face was red, her eyes wild. I heard something break, glass exploding across the counter. I yelled, Mom, what's going on? And then, the man grabbed my arm. Hard. Too hard. I remembered screaming. I remembered my mother yelling, let her go. I remembered the car keys in my hand, her keys. I remembered running outside, slipping on wet pavement. I remembered getting into the car, turning the ignition with shaking hands. And the man behind me grabbing the door. I jerked. My eyes didn't open yet, but my mind opened wide. The man in my room exhaled slowly. Ah. There it is. I can see it on your face, you remember the car. My heart slammed. He whispered. You weren't supposed to survive that crash. My breath, inside my trapped body, hitched violently. The machine shrieked with alarm. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. He stood up calmly. Time's running out, he said. You're getting too close. He stepped back into the shadows just as Carmen burst into the room. Ray, she cried. Ray, what's going on? Her vitals, they're spiking again. Nurses rushed in behind her. Something triggered her system, one of them said. Triggered. Yes. That man triggered everything. And I was done being silent. Carmen grabbed my hand, trembling. Ray, listen to me. I'm right here. You're okay. You're safe. Nothing about this was safe. But her voice grounded me. And as she begged me to come back, another memory burst forward like lightning ripping through the dark. The car skidding on the wet road. Hands trying to shove me from the driver's seat. Me screaming for help. A sharp pain to my head. The world spinning. Glass. Metal folding. My body thrown. And right before everything went black. A voice whispering in my ear. Should have stayed out of it. My heart broke through the darkness, beating so hard the machine screeched for help. The nurses tried to calm me. Carmen kept holding my hand. Someone called for the doctor. And behind all of them, my mother entered the room slowly. Calm. Silent. Expression unreadable. She walked to my bedside and looked at the monitor, then at me. Her face cracked, just slightly. A tremor in her lip. A twitch in her jaw. A flicker of fear in her eyes. Because she knew I was remembering. She knew I was waking up. And she whispered, barely audible. I warned you. If I could have spoken, I would have said it right back. So did I. Because now I knew the truth. They didn't just fear me waking up. They feared what I was waking up to say. And I was so close. So close to breaking through. My body was finally listening. My fingers twitched again. Then again. Then curled, barely, but enough for Carmen to gasp through sobs. She's coming back. She's really coming back. And my mother's expression shifted from fear to calculation. Because if I woke up, everything came out. Everything. And she wasn't about to let that happen without a fight. The 12th day felt different before I even heard a voice. Something in the air around me pulsed, heavy, electric, like the room itself knew a storm was coming. My mind hovered just under consciousness, but not trapped anymore. More like a diver right beneath the surface, ready to break through. Every whisper I had heard, every confession, every threat, every fragmented memory, they were no longer scattered pieces. They were forming a picture. A dark, ugly truth that had been buried under years of lies, fear, and silence. And my mother felt it. She stood at the corner of my room that morning, stiff and pale despite her perfect posture. She hadn't slept, her clothes were too neat, her eyes too wild, her voice too calm to be real. Carmen slept curled in a chair beside me, exhausted, her hand still wrapped around mine. My mother stared at my fingers. She knew I was waking up. She knew time was slipping. And she was desperate. All you had to do was stop, she whispered into the empty air. Just once. You could have trusted me. The words weren't meant for anyone else. They were meant for me. Because I had always been the one in the family who pushed for truth. Who questioned. Who dug. Who refused to pretend everything was fine when it wasn't. And she hated that about me. Carmen stirred at the sound of her voice, blinking awake. You're still here? Mom smoothed her blouse and forced a smile. Of course. I'm worried about my daughter. You weren't worried the night she drove away crying, Carmen shot back. A muscle in Mom's face twitched. You don't know what happened, she said. Then tell me, Carmen demanded. Tell me what you've been hiding. Tell me what you're so scared of her remembering. Mom didn't respond. She stared at me instead, her eyes narrowing the slightest bit as the monitor picked up another spike in my heart rate. You're remembering something, she said quietly. Aren't you? Carmen looked at the monitor too, and her breath caught. Ray? Ray, if you can hear me, you're safe. Okay? You're safe with me. Safe. That word echoed painfully inside my trapped body, because I knew the man from the shadows was still somewhere in this hospital. And I knew he wasn't finished. Not until he was sure I'd never wake up. And then. It happened. My eyelids twitched. Just once. But enough. Carmen gasped, covering her mouth with both hands. Oh my God, Ray. Mom stepped back like I'd reached out and grabbed her throat. The machines beeped frantically. Nurses rushed in. The doctor appeared in seconds. She's showing signs of eye movement, he said, voice tight with disbelief. She's attempting to regain consciousness. Carmen sobbed under her breath. Yes, come back to me. Please. My mother's face drained of color. Because she knew. If I opened my eyes, she lost everything. The nurse adjusted the light, and a sharp, bright flash hit my still closed eyes. It hurt. Which meant something incredible. I could feel again. The doctor leaned close. Ray, if you can hear me, follow my voice. You're safe. You're waking up. Safe. That word again. But another word, another voice, was drilling into my head instead. Should have stayed out of it. I remembered. Not all at once. But enough. The man grabbing my arm. The argument between him and my mother. The envelope I found in her drawer that night, documents with numbers and signatures I didn't understand. Money. Debt. Threats. I had confronted her. I remembered shouting, Mom, what did you do? I remembered her crying, not from guilt, but from fear. I remembered the man following me outside. I remembered running to the car and trying to drive away. I remembered his hand slamming against the window. I remembered the jolt as he tried to pull the door open. I remembered losing control of the car on wet pavement. The skid. The crash. The darkness swallowing me whole. I remembered everything. And I wanted to wake up more than I wanted to breathe. So I pushed. I pushed harder than I ever had in my life. My hand moved. My eyelids twitched again. A sound tore out of Carmen, a broken, joyful cry. That's it. Ray, please, one more time. I tried. Light pierced through the darkness, white, sharp, blinding. My eyes opened. Only for a second. But that second was enough to see my sister's face collapse with relief. Enough to see the doctor scramble to adjust the machines. Enough to see the nurses rushing toward me. And enough to see my mother. Her mask cracked completely. Fear, raw, exposed fear, twisted across her face as she stared at me like I was a ghost she'd buried and now had to face. The doctor leaned over me. Ray, you're waking up. Take your time. I tried again, forcing my heavy eyelids apart. This time, they stayed open longer. Shapes sharpened. Light steadied. Voices became clearer. And then I saw her. My mother stepping back. Her hand covering her mouth. Her eyes locked onto mine. It was the first time I had ever seen her afraid of me. She whispered, not to me, not to anyone in the room, but to herself. She remembers. I did. She knew it. I knew it. Carmen knew something was wrong the moment she saw Mom's face. What did she remember? Carmen demanded. What did you do? Mom didn't answer. Instead, she backed toward the door. The doctor stepped in front of her, blocking her path. Ma'am, I need you to stay. No, Mom snapped. You don't understand. But she wasn't looking at him. She was looking at me. Because for the first time since I fell into the coma, I wasn't helpless. I wasn't trapped. I wasn't drowning in darkness. I was awake. My voice didn't work yet, but my eyes did. And they were full of the truth she'd tried to bury. The man from the shadows suddenly appeared in the doorway, his eyes flicking from my mother, to me, to the machines. Panic flashed across his face. "She's awake," he hissed. Mom didn't answer. She just stared at me, frozen. The doctor looked between them, confused. "Who are you? You can't be in here." The man ignored him, staring at me with rage and fear simmering behind his eyes. "You should have stayed in that coma," he whispered. The nurse gasped. Carmen's face twisted in horror. The doctor stepped protectively closer to me. Everything exploded at once. Alarms blaring. Nurses shouting. Security being called. Carmen yelling, "Get away from my sister." The man trying to push past the doctor. My mother reaching for him, hissing, "Stop, stop, it's too late." And me, watching it all with eyes wide open. Wide awake. Fully conscious. Fully aware of what happened. And now the truth wasn't buried. Now it was rising like fire, burning through every lie they'd ever told. Because the moment I woke up, everything changed. And they knew it. My mother's final look said it all. She was terrified of the truth. Terrified of me. And terrified of what would happen next. The nurses pulled everyone back. Security rushed in. The doctor focused on stabilizing me. Carmen held my hand, sobbing with relief and anger and fear all tangled together. I couldn't speak yet. But I didn't need words. Not anymore. My eyes locked on my mother's. I remembered everything. And she finally knew she couldn't hide it anymore.